Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us again. Our series of podcasts. My name is Dirk Wood, co-founder and one of the partners at Parallaxis, part of Idea Harbor. And today we have Dan Chernoff with us. He's a friend of the company, and we're going to talk about all things AI. And Dan, just so you know who he is and his credentials, he's got the hat on even. He does have a master's degree in data science from the University of Notre Dame. So if you haven't seen the movie Rudy, go watch the movie Rudy. It's a must watch, I would say. It is actually one of the movies that makes my wife cry every time we see it. It was cool. So let's get kicked off. So we're going to talk about, data is not all you need. So it seems like everything these days is AI powered. Heck, even Samsung has it on their TVs. And seems like if you're not using AI, you're going to be left behind. Can I use AI tools from cloud providers to help myself catch up?
Yes, kind of. Um, what's being sold to you is that you can just buy the cloud provider's tool, plug it into your network, and suddenly you're AI powered. And that's not the reality. There are a ton of tools that can help you if you're ready to use them. And the challenge isn't really finding the AI tool, although vetting them can be arduous. But the reality is, do you have the things in your environment? Do you have the data? Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have what you need to take advantage of those cloud provider tools?
Okay, cool. And so can I just plug into this cloud provider, plug in my data, and it kind of discovers what I have, what I need? Is that a thing?
Yeah, machine learning is really good at finding relationships, right? You can use lots of different models to find correlations and relationships and features of your data you didn't even know were there. In fact, it'll find features and correlations in your data that aren't really there, that can make implementing AI very complicated because you can't just use AI and send it on its way and it's going to be perfect because it's based in math. What you really need to do is understand what the data is that you have, the area that it's in, and then have experts who know your data and understand your industry be able to vet what's real and what's not, even before you start thinking about plugging in that cloud provider data. And at the end of the day, there are some table stakes that you have in place before you even consider bringing on a Vertex AI or a tool from Amazon.
Okay. So what are those table stakes that you mentioned?
Right. The most basic is we're going to sound like we're from the 90s, some mechanism to move your data, commonly an ETL or ELT type of pipeline to get your data from the operational system or from an external place and put it into some place that you can evaluate it and then be able to use for your models. Most commonly, those were called data warehouses or data lakes or data lake with a lake house or whatever the cool kids are calling it these days, right? But at the end of the day, you need to put it somewhere to give you the ability to assess it and understand what that data is. And when we talk about assessment, we're really looking at the data for things like completeness. Do you have lots of gaps in your data? Is it biased? Is it from a small segment of the population that you're trying to use that to extrapolate the entire population, which can cause your models not to work well? And finally, do you have a governance framework in place? Do you have the rules that tell you what you're allowed and not allowed to do with your data or share about your data? Because that is just as important as having the data.
Okay, cool. So let's say, I do what you just said, right? Table stakes. I got ETL or ELT, pipelines, governance, all the things all things you mentioned, excuse me. And so now I can plug into the cloud tools, whatever they might be, and the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally how it works. Almost. Let's say that you have the data, you've validated that it's not biased and that it's clean and that you're following all the rules specific to your industry. Before you try to go implement AI, you really need to formulate what you want to do with it. So if we go back to the structure that we use around the first step, it's formulating that question of interest. What is it that I'm trying to learn? And most commonly, it's if my machine learning model could tell me X, then I could go do Y. So if you look at an LLM, if my large language model could help my developers code in my language, I would be able to dot dot dot, right? the more specific you are about what you're trying to accomplish with AI lets you be able to know, do you have the data to go accomplish that task? The act of pulling your data into a central place and doing the analysis many times gives you an idea of what kind of things you can do with your data and what kind of things you can't. But really, that business assessment, that business value process of defining your question of interest is really that big next step before you start down the path of engaging with the cloud provider's AI and having a data scientist start to build those models and do that evaluation.
Okay, cool. So, and it makes sense. I mean, and it's obviously something here at Parallaxis is what are you trying to do? What's your business objective? It's not just a magic, a magic wand, right? That you can just point at data and oh look, AI is happening. Okay, so for those listening, let's say they've done the table stakes, they've done governance, like you said earlier. They actually thought about what they want their data to do or what they're trying to solve. So what's next? What happens next?
Now that you have a model, how do you use it and how do you know how well it's working? We've generically talked about those things in the past. Most cloud providers give you a mechanism to deliver the model via your software platform as a REST endpoint or pushing it out over the air to your devices. There are lots and lots of ways. What you need to do as part of your vetting process is make sure that your cloud provider can support the kind of delivery that you need. But as important as getting that model out there is being able to measure it. So as part of the development process of your model, one of those things was developing the business metrics as well as the model metrics to know that your model is effective. Models are only effective if they help the business. It doesn't matter what the underlying data science-y, mathy type metrics are. If it's not moving the needle, meeting the business need, then the model's not being effective. So being able to measure it and know if your model is effective is just as important. And maybe we can talk next time about the best ways to measure model metrics and being able to tell if they're effective for your business.
Absolutely. So yeah, so those of you listening next time, we will go through that because I think, today Dan's obviously showed you, how to get these things up and running and working. But the main thing is if it's not helping your business, if it's not cutting costs, if it's not increasing your customer satisfaction, whatever it might be, you're missing the boat. AI and stuff is here to stay, but you got to make sure it's working well for you and for your business. So Dan, we always tend to keep these short so people's attention span. Thank you so much for doing another one of these. We'll see you again soon next time. For all those listening to this, thanks again. And if you want to check out our website, it's parallaxis.ai. And thank you all very much. We'll talk to you again next time.